Hi, it's Michael Dermer here, and in this lesson we're going to be talking about, what are the top skills and messages that you need to be able to bring to bear to improve your chance of raising capital. So raising capital is a complicated process, and in that process you have to give yourself the best chance by bringing to bear, some of the skills and lessons that we're going to talk about in this lesson, okay? First is the ability to be clear and concise, right? This has to be in the way you communicate. It has to be in the way that your executive summary and your investor materials comes through. If you can't clearly and concisely communicate the value of your business, investors are going to kind of turn off. They see lots and lots of business plans, lots and lots of investment pitches. We're constantly cluttered in our day-to-day life with noise. You've got to be able to clearly and concisely communicate why your investment is compelling. Next is let the business sell itself, right? A lot of times we'll go into investment presentations and we're so passionate about our business and we're excited about what we're doing and we need money and all those things that we will keep talking about how great our business is and how awesome our business is and how wonderful our business is. As you can imagine, everybody says that about their company. Investors hear that over and over again. Nobody walks in and says, we're not that good at this, okay? So here's what I would say. Don't sell the business, let the business sell itself. And here's what I mean by that. Use third parties that have had an experience with your business to be the validators of how great your business is, right? So come to the table and say, don't listen to us. I'd like you to talk to a couple of customers, okay? Or don't listen to us. I'd like you to talk to our board of advisors. Or, you know what? I obviously think that we're doing a pretty good job, but here's an example of the press clippings that we've gotten and the exposure that we've gotten, right? Even the fact that you've brought on a really talented employee, right, is evidence that you're really onto something. If some sophisticated employee joins an early stage company, it says to investors, wow, these guys are really onto something. So don't proactively sell your business. Let third parties, all the folks that I mentioned here, sell it for you. That gives you a much greater degree of credibility. Next is proactively bring up your weaknesses. This is an incredibly counterintuitive thing to do. Imagine going into an investor presentation and wanting to bring up your weaknesses. And here's why. Investors want to know that they're investing in people that understand what it takes to create a great business. And those people recognize that they may not have all the things that they need today, right? They might not have the right people, they might not have the right technology, they might not have the right sales team, but it's the leaders that can come to the table and say, here are the things that we need to be successful. Here's our plan, right? And here's how we're going to take your capital and deploy that capital to meet some of these needs. That's impressive to investors because most people come in there and say, we're great, we're terrific, we know it. But the people that investors have faith in are ones that go, I understand what it's supposed to look like in the future, even though we have all these challenges here today. So really proactively bring up weaknesses, but make sure you do it side by side with your plan to address those weaknesses. Next is, superlatives. We talk a little bit before about saying, I think our business is awesome and things like that. Be very, very careful about using words like love, right, or ecstatic. So if you go in and you say, our customers absolutely love our software. Well, very few customers love software. They love their wife, they love their husband, they love their kids, they love their pets. It's pretty rare that people love software. And so when you bring in those types of superlatives, even though you're passionate about what you're doing and you may even need money, make sure you kind of police that your own passion in a way that you don't overdo it with respect to the superlatives. Next is, you should believe that the train is leaving the station and it's just a matter of whether or not this investor is smart enough to get on board, okay? So don't go into investors and kind of ask and beg for money. Be confident about what you're doing. Say you're going to get from point A to point B. You want to create the impression with the investor that when you leave that meeting, they go, I better get on this train. So always act like, not in an arrogant way, but always act like the train is leaving the station. It's just a matter of whether they're going to get on. Next is never act like you need money, right? Even if you couldn't afford the Uber ride over to the investor's office, never act like you need money, right? Always communicate that you want money because you are going to take advantage of the market opportunity that's reflected in your plan, okay? Investors smell when you need money, and that does a lot of negative things. First of all, it makes investors go, well, why are they this is a good leadership team, why are they at the point where they're running out of money? Next is sometimes investors will use it to their advantage to negotiate with you. You should absolutely never act like you need money. You should simply communicate that, hey, we have this opportunity to take advantage of this market, and we want money to go take advantage of that opportunity, and here is our plan. Next is never let investors see the strain, right? Being an entrepreneur and raising money is an incredibly stressful process for all of us. Never let them see that, right? Because investors can sense that, right? They can sense those things, and they'll say, well, does this leader really have the juice to take advantage of the opportunity given how much time and effort they've put into it? Sometimes investors will use it to negotiate with you. Sometimes investors will say, well, wait a minute, if this is a strong leader, then why did they end up in this situation where they're so stressed? I mean, just regardless of how strained you are, never let them see the strain. Next is realize that you are always on stage, right? There is no communication, there is no circumstance, there is no meeting, there is no topic of conversation where they are not evaluating you. Okay, I'll tell you a quick story. On my board of directors, there was a gentleman, a colleague of mine, whose mom passed away way too early from cancer, and he spent a lot of time raising money for cancer research. And at some point, this board member was about to become a member of the management team. And I was talking to one of the investors, and I was making the point about his cancer fundraising and how terrific it was. And the investor said, "Wow, that's really great, but doesn't that also take up a lot of his time?" Right? I mean, think about how terrible that is. But what you have to realize, you are always on stage with investors. The way you walk in a meeting, the way you talk to your team, right? The way you present, right? All of those different things, you are always on stage and being evaluated by your investor. And finally, and this is a real tough one, and that is addressing the future leadership of the company, right? Investors see lots and lots of investments, and they know what great leaders look like. It does not take them very long to know whether you or your other team members are the ones that are going to lead the company forward. And a lot of times with founders, right, it gets pointed directly at you. Are you the one that if somebody gives you $5 or $5 million or $50 million, are you the one that's ready to be CEO of the company? Okay. So here's what I would say. What I would always say to investors is this. Ultimately, the company needs the right CEO to be successful. Okay. I've brought the company to this point. I'd like to have the opportunity to do that, which may be what you want to do. Or you can say, I believe that when we get to a certain stage, it would be great to bring in more seasoned leadership to work side by side with me. Always talk about it in terms of how the business is going to be successful. If you walk in there and you're not an experienced CEO, and you're going to be the one that is committed to saying, I'm going to be the CEO regardless of the circumstances, that gives investors pause. If you go to investors and say, listen, I'm open to whatever's in the best interest of the business. Okay. Now remember, you're not giving up anything. Okay. You're just communicating that when the time is right, as long as there's a relationship there that makes sense for you financially and in terms of your role, that you're willing to do what's in the best interest of the business. Okay. You may very well say, I want to be CEO, even if you haven't been CEO before. But ultimately, investors invest because they know they have the leadership that knows what it's supposed to look like to be successful, okay? It's a tough one because I know this is our baby, but always realize it really comes down to ultimately why investors invest, okay? We've laid out a bunch of different techniques here and skills that help you communicate more effectively during the investment process and hopefully give you a better chance of success. So in addition to this video, like with the other lessons, you'll see lots of information written out side by side with this video in the midst of this lesson.